Today I'm going to talk about Appdaemon log files. When you're setting up Predbat or when you have an issue, you need to check the log files first. The first thing to do is to go to the system settings, system logs, and then on this drop down on the right hand side you'll find Appdaemon. Here in the log file I can see some errors that I created previously when I was messing around with the code. This means something's gone wrong. Check out the timestamp and see when it was. You can scroll down to the bottom. In fact, in my case, this was yesterday and I fixed it since, so it's not a problem. The other thing is, if you've got all the normal Predbat data in here, this log gets very long quite quickly and it wraps. So in the file editor here, if I open up config appdaemon, appdaemon.yaml, I've added something here that configures the normal log output of Appdaemon to a separate log file. This means only the errors will go into the system settings, and I can quickly filter them, and the main log goes into this separate log file. I can open the log file up here in the file editor, or you can download it in the usual way. If I then have a look at this log, I can see that Predbat has been running. So this is this morning at 7:30. So it's got the last updated at. There's quite a bit of information in this log, and not all of it will make too much sense. But you can see here it's saying my car is plugged in and waiting for demand. That's because it's outside my cheap hours and I'm not charging it. It's giving me my energy rate information, but this is actually the default rates and not the ones coming from the plugin, so I might need to ignore that. But it does tell me now the minimum, average, and maximum import rate. It's telling me I've got Octopus Intelligent and I've got some slots. Those are historical ones I charged my car last night. And then it's telling me my export rates. So make sure these are correct, you're importing the export rates. And it's saying the rate threshold for charging the battery is 20p and for exporting is 7.5, because that's just my fixed export rate. It then says there's two low rate import windows I could charge the battery on at these times. It's also, because I've got Intelligent, it's reporting my car's battery size, what the charge limit's set to, and what the current charge level is. Then here it's reporting for inverter 0. So this is I've only got one inverter, but if you have got more than one, you should see each of them come up if it's set up correctly. I'm using the REST API for the inverter, and it's saying I've got a reserve set to 4. It tells me the capacity of the battery, my maximum DC, that's charging and discharging rate, and what I've set the AC limit to. Be careful that your AC limit is actually set to the capacity of the inverter, and make sure you add in any additional solar inverters you might have on top. So then it reports the charging and discharging rate here. Going beyond that, what you'll see now is it says what the base settings are. So this is what the inverter is set to for charging, and I've got no charging enabled. And for discharging, this will only be the times of the window, and because discharging enabled, you have to do at the time that you start the discharging. Then the best charge window is the one that's been calculated from your energy rates, and it's figured out what the times might be. Then what we get is a simulation of the base scenario here, and this just gives you the half-hourly times and what might be expected to happen. These are better visualized on the charts anyway. We'll see that in a separate video. Metric is essentially cost. How much is it going to cost you in pence? As the time goes on, you can see that my cost is actually going down because I'm exporting, and you can see I'm exporting from the export numbers here. If I was importing, the import number would be going up. These are cumulative, and PV is my solar generation. These are all in kilowatt hours. Load is my historical load on the house that's expected to happen. And this state information is telling me what's happening to the grid Twiddle means it's balanced, no imports or exports, and B- means the battery's discharging. Now we're kind of balanced with solar, and so there's no charging or discharging. And then we can see some grid exports happening here. Okay, and then what you'll see is that it then tries to work out the best scenario and adjusts things, and then it runs that simulation again for both best 10, which is the 10% PV scenario. So that's essentially if the weather turns out bad, what will the solar look like versus if it turns out as expected. And so you get the two scenarios here. Again, these are best visualized in the chart. And then eventually it tells you what the charging limits are for the next window. 3.52 kilowatts for my next window, and 9.52 for the one after. That's the one it's not controlling yet, so that will always be high until you get past this window. Obviously, if you've got smaller windows within 24 hours, you might see multiple of these for something like Agile, for example. Then it says, okay, this will be the next charge window. I'm not going to set it yet because it's not time, and I'm not going to change the percentage because it's not time yet. It sets it 30 minutes before the start time. The reserve is already at the default, and so we're all done. And then you can just see it going around every 5 minutes over and over again until you get to the end of the log file. Okay.